reminds me of when a chick looks at you and says, but we'll always be good friends. That's also the same kind of comment they make about the short, fat girls with pimples, but she has a very nice personality. She's awful broad of beam, but her eyes sparkle. Interesting world of Gene Shepard. What is this? The radio station? Go to the radio. Oh. Find my world interesting. That reminds me of Phil Tonkin, who always comes on and says, now the world of news. Is this that separate from the world? You know, it's another world of news. That's enough of that jazz. All right, Eddie. All right, kill it, for crying out loud. Have you ever had the feeling that it's all carved out of a bar of ivory soap and it's 99 and 44 100% pure, but oh boy, that 56 100% that ain't pure. Oh, look out. Yes, stay tuned for the gingerbread men who follow in just a moment with raisin eyes. Some currents for buttons. Stay tuned. This is the interesting world of... Well, all right, it is interesting. Now, as long as we've got to do it now. See, he's put it right up to me. He's put it plainly up to me. I have to make my world interesting. Well, is my world different from your rotten world out there? Huh? Why? What kind of a world you live in? I suppose, well, I don't know, for crying out loud. There's something that's been bugging me for about the last 24 hours. Well, actually, let's say the last 400 years, to be honest with you. The first time I realized that I was being bugged. We'll keep that for later, after the station break, when the women and children have left. We're liable to say it tonight. I mean, what a kick in the thing that was. Interesting. Crying out loud. And stay tuned for jovial laugh a minute, friendly, reliable, sober John Gambling. He'll tell you about the news. He's very good on the time. Well, we'll be here, you know. It's very hard. It's a funny thing. The other night, there was a German girl listened to the program, a friend of mine, and she says, I was understanding all of everything that Mr. Shepard was saying, but I could not figure out why he was laughing. And there ain't a single man-jack of us, not a single man-jack of us Americans who did not know why I was laughing, you know. It's just it's the joke, you know. The joke, chick, girl. Yes. I guess that's the difference between us and the Europeans. They don't know about the joke. They take it seriously. It's funny how many people... they take things very seriously. They really believe that a playwright is saying something about the world over there in Europe, you know. Yes, indeed. Well, I was not understanding what he was saying there, but for heaven's sake... Oh, forget it now. All right, cut it out. That stopped you, didn't it, baby? Anytime you start blowing something out through your nose, the chicks will listen. When it comes out of your head, they don't know what you're talking about. Very true. Do you want me to try another chorus of that? I haven't blown the nose flute. Now, wait, hold it there for just a minute before we go any further. There's something that has been bugging me now. Let's see. I will award the brass figurine for anybody who can get me off the hook. This has been really a pain in the thing tonight. No, I'll tell you what happened. This afternoon, I'm sitting in the middle of an important meeting. Now, chick, listen to this now. I'm sitting in a very important meeting, see? And everybody's making the sounds. You know, they make important meetings, and girls are coming in with coffee, you know, that kind of thing. And everyone's pretending like it's serious, and they're nodding. I have trouble in meetings like that. I really do. There's a look in the eye. You'd be surprised that when I first came here, Now, those of you who might not know this, I'll tell you some ancient history. When I first came at WOR, they thought I don't know what it was, they thought that I believed it too, or something. I had a look in the eye, maybe, I don't know what it was, maybe I was skinnier or something, or fatter, I think it was. But when I came here first at WOR, they used to seriously say to me, well, got a very good idea about you following John gambling in the morning, and you come out with these records, show tunes and stuff. Well, I would sit there in these meetings, and it began to develop, apparently, it was a mutual thing, mutual distrust builds very easily and rapidly, that somehow I wasn't with it. I don't know, and it was graphically, I thought I would grow out of it, you know what I mean? I thought I would grow up to be Bill McCormick and begin to really, believe in sales and all that stuff and the charts to really seriously read Advertising Age. And really honestly and seriously read it, I think a kid reading Mad Magazine is getting more information about the world, and certainly he's getting more about people than if he reads the next 50 years of Ad Age. You know what I mean? Have you looked at it recently, Eddie? Any of the broadcasting? It's very difficult for me to even, I can't get past the first page in one of those things and my head starts to buzz. Well, I'm sitting today in this very important meeting. Now, it's an uptown meeting, and it's one of these meeting places, where they have wall-to-wall carpeting that runs all the way up the walls and runs over the ceiling and starts back down again, that kind of a place. It's all like a little cocoon, all wrapped up and plunked right here in the middle of this madhouse, Manhattan. And all these mad men were sitting around, and they had just returned from a lunch, and you could just hear their girdles popping and their stays, and once in a while you'd hear some guy's stomach bellows out with that 3 bottles of fine old wine he's had and 17 martinis, and we're all sitting there with see, I was not at the luncheon, they were. So they had the glazed look of guys who have just escaped from Michael's Pub after a 17-hour service. Those lunches are no longer lunches, they're a religious service. It's a kind of togetherness, a kind of belief in ham hocks and filet of sole that far transcends anything that you'll find at most of the Madison Avenue or Park Avenue churches on Sunday. So we're sitting there, and once in a while you hear the stomachs go blah, 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 blah. And of course, one thing they do have in these meeting rooms, they usually have a quiet sound of music playing in the background, so you can not hear the more embarrassing sounds that are really actually what life is about. And all the while, the band is playing Tea for Two, those things that music comes out. They're not really playing that stuff. It's like it's all muffled through cheesecloth or something. It's just like little snatches of forgotten things. It's going, and everybody's sitting there, and we're talking about a gigantic project. Well, if I had 50 cents for every meeting I have attended in the past 5 years alone here in Manhattan, I could build myself the wildest place you ever saw off the coast of Maine. Just for the meetings I have been in that got nowhere beyond the 3rd cup of coffee that the chick brought in. You never hear any more about it the next day, the year after. They just continue around to this stuff. And it's like a gigantic game that's being played by everybody. You wonder how anything ever gets on, I'd like to be once in a meeting where it actually happened, where the movie was produced or the play was done. Or the show got on television, but it's just a continual thing, and there is a kind of, one of the most important ground rules if you're going to play the game is to always at least present the outward appearance to everybody around you that you believe that what everyone is talking about, they're really talking about it. And furthermore, that it's actually going to happen. Well, I'll tell you, JB, I can see it now. When we come out, 9:30 would be a good time. Channel 7. Now look, here's the way it works. The title's a long shot down Madison Avenue, you see, at dawn. You got it? And the titles, come on. Sacco, there they come. And everybody's sitting there nodding. If you hear a stomach go, and the eyeballs are glazed from the martinis. And it's all a big, wonderful game. And, of course, what's interesting is that they spend a lot of money on this game, too. Somebody will say, let's get up a presentation. Well, then everybody starts that, and it goes on for another 4 months. It's like an enormous game of everybody cutting out dolls. They spend money like water, other people's dough, you see. And the part of the game they're playing, the guys that provide the dough, is that they have to believe it's going to happen, too, because it's all tax deductible. and it's one big, wonderful game. And the sponsor comes in from New York. He comes in from places like Cleveland, usually Cincinnati, the soap companies. He flies all the way in, and he sits down and has a serious talk with Rita Gam at a musical. And, that kind of thing. It's all provided. Oh, wonderful. Just a lot of wonderful game. Well, I'm sitting in the middle of the game this afternoon. And they're talking away there. And for a while, I'm following the thread. It's much more difficult to follow the thread of one of these meetings than to follow, say, Waiting for Godot. Waiting for Godot makes a devil a lot more sense than the average meeting in the average ad agency. Literally, it does. It really honestly does, because Godot, at least Beckett, is dealing with something that's out there. These guys are dealing with the kind of it's like they're trying to build an enormous air force out of kites. Wet kites, you see, with no string, and we're sitting there, and it's going on and on and on. This droning of the music is going, and you can hear the girl once in a while. A burp, and a little thing buzzes on JB's desk, burp, and he picks it up and he says, "Yeah. Hey, any of you guys? How about coffee? Any of you guys want anything from downstairs? Yeah, okay." Well, then, of course, we go through the Danish routine. Everybody, this is it punctuates the meeting, just like a steady obligato, the Danish. Danish? Yeah. Oh, chicken salad. Yeah, hey, Madge, can you order some chicken salad down? Yeah, bring it. You want mayonnaise? Yeah. Okay, yeah, Chucky, yeah, fine, okay. He puts the thing down, and we start. It's a wonderful life, I'll tell you. It's a great life. To those of you who've never been in one of these, it's not as deadly as Jack Lemmon would lead you to believe. I don't think Lemmon's ever been in any of these things. That is another fascinating aspect of it. That when guys in the movies write about it, they've never been in them, really, because they're really doing the movies. They've never sat in these endless, wonderful games that go on along Lexington Avenue at 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Oh, ladies, if you're listening, that's what your old man calls work. That's working. That's what he's doing when he's down here. If he tells you, "Oh, my God, I'm all just knocked out," well, he's bloated with Danish and with martinis, and that'll knock anybody out, and it enlarges the liver and everything else. So he comes in and says, "Oh, I just got a cork off," and he comes in. Of course, he's half bagged. It's all there, And that's work. That's called work, in case you're wondering what they do down there. Well, I'm sitting in one of these things today, and it's going on, and it's one of those great afternoons. The air conditioning is working perfectly. It's the never land of no climate, too. That's part of it. That lends itself to the Oz aspect. It's never cold. It's never hot. It's never anything, really. And the people are all totally... What I think adds to it is the fact that almost everybody is totally sexless. Oh, yes. Oh, indeed. There's nothing more sexless than a really sharp, young, hard-hitting Dartmouth graduate, Madison Avenue assistant junior account exec. He's totally sexless because, if you have a specific sex, that's in itself subversive. It's controversial, literally. It is, because the large numbers of the women in these agencies have no discernible... They're just angry people. They don't have any sexual problems. They're just angry people, that's all. And so it's all one big thing, and it's like... Do you remember the Mad Tea Party sequence? Well, what sex actually is a dormouse? They're just sitting there with a thing on his head, and an insane rabbit doesn't have any actual thing. Well, so you get the feeling like it's caterpillars that are talking, and oysters are saying things, and old walruses are talking. It goes on, and I'm in the middle of it all there. Of course, I'm the same. Actually, my role is sort of as a carp. I'm a kind of a carp there. And I go quack, quack once in a while, and then they go quack, 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 and it goes on and on. Everybody's sort of patting each other on the stomach, and boop, you hear, and then somebody says, "How about some Danish?" And then up comes the Danish, and two guys always order bicarb, and oh yes, that bloop, and then you get some more action, and we're sitting there. Lady, if I'm sickening you, I'm just trying to describe to you reality. Speaking of the sick, this is WOR AM and FM New York. Talking about mad tea parties. Have you ever sat in on a sales meeting here on Monday? Oh, wow. Well, that's where I got my early training. Right here. This is, oh, yes. Oh, indeed. I owe a lot to Bob Leader. I owe a lot. I learned how to skate on thin ice. And, oh, yes, I can do beautiful tricks on thin ice, too. As a matter of fact, I learned to skate on plain, ordinary water. No ice at all. Just skate, skate on air, as a matter of fact. Well, oh yeah, most guys in along Madison Avenue and Lexington Avenue are defying all known laws of gravity. They are staying above water. They are staying in the air with it's like the bee, you know, how they can't figure out how the bee flies. Well, about 99.9% of the guys along the avenue do not know how they stay in action. They have no talent. They have nothing going for them except a lot of wing flapping. You know, their wings go like mad. And they have defied all known laws of aerodynamics. Well, there I am, see, skating along on the air. And everybody else is skating either on thin ice or they're swimming underwater in petroleum jelly. Vaseline to you. So we're sitting there, and the music is going, and the chick keeps coming in and out with the Danish, and it's a wonderful afternoon. And you know, they have a special kind of lighting now that simulates sunlight in some of these really chic Mad Adams. Have you seen that new kind of lighting? It simulates the light, and you can adjust it. You see in the back they have a knob. You can adjust it for twilight over Tahiti. You can adjust it for things like long dawn over Key West, you know, that kind of thing. Or you can have thunder clouds over the Bronx. When you really want to have trouble, you know, boom, and everybody, of course, they're working a thing back there. And we're sitting there, and it's going. You know, that's how they get you out of some of these places when the meetings are going on too long, and JB doesn't know how to figure out how to throw everybody out of the office because he's got to catch the 347 home. Well, yeah, you know what they do? The girl, he presses a button, see, and the girl changes the lighting in the place to thunder over the Bronx. And everybody gets a vague feeling of insecurity, you know, and you know you got to get out of there. You don't know why. You don't even know the lighting's changed. And the music subtly changes, you know. Things like the March of the Cataclysmic Giants, you know. It's things like, you know, they take these terrible mood musics from these rotten Class B movies. Something comes out of the speaker, boom, 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 boom. And the next thing you know, boy, you're in that elevator and you're doggone glad to be there, that's all. And JB's on his way to the 347. Well, now, you want to know what happened to me today? Well, what happens to you in the middle of one of these insanity sessions is that you will find yourself thinking about other things. Almost invariably, the mind of man is not capable of more than, I'd say, about 9 or 10 milliseconds of attention span on any given piece of chicanery that he's about to perpetrate. That separates the guys that really make it from the rest of us. They're the opposite. Their mind is 1,000% on whatever nuttiness they're about to perpetrate, like make $1 billion. At least 7 hours out of a possible 7.5. You know, they're just like they're insanity. Well, we're the rest of us are us. You know, we're dreaming, things are going on. How many hours a day do you spend just sort of fluttering around in your mind? You know, going from just, you know, like in the woods. You know, you're fluttering around and you keep thinking, wow, wouldn't it be great? Whoopee, woo, wow. And then you fly around a little bit, and then you hang on the chandelier a while, you know, and then you talk on the phone, and then you scratch your foot, and you know, it's life. That's what's called life, just existing. And then you take a shower. For a minute, you're really hung up, you know, looking for the soap. That is an achievement for a while there. It gives you something that is definite. You look for the soap. Have you ever seen old ladies over at the Horn and Hardart? They will spend 15 minutes lining up their forks and knives. I saw an old lady one day spread a little paper napkin out. She had one little bowl of beans, you know, and she had a little bowl of cabbage or something, and a couple of slices of bread and a cup of coffee. Well, she spent 15 minutes getting ready to eat it. Spreading out the little napkin, you know, and she'd lay her little fork down there, and then she gets up and goes over and gets a salt shake and brings it back, so it's just right, and she moves her chair back and forth, and then she takes her handkerchief out and wipes the knife off. Well, I'm watching this orchestration of non-activity going on, and she's terribly involved in it, you know. It's really absolutely, because she has absolutely nothing else to involve her skull with. Well, it goes on and on. Well, have you ever been in an ad agency when they're talking about how the credits are going to come on? Exactly the same situation. You know, on and on and on they go, and they talk about the mood music, and they talk about who's going to handle what, and they go on, who's going to make the phone calls, and all the while nobody's talking about what the show is going to say, you know, because they have no idea, none whatsoever. So we're sitting here, you know, and this little lady is putting the salt, and I keep thinking about this. Well, this afternoon, I am in the middle of this madhouse, and I'm enjoying it. I must say this. I'm not anti this. I love these things. They're wonderful. It's a folk rite of today, and I'm as religious as anybody. And I certainly enjoy religious experiences. along Madison Avenue. It is. It's a kind of dynamic togetherness, a kind of worshiping of something. I can't quite figure it out, but it's there. And J.B. presides over it. Well, at I'd say about a half an hour after the thing got underway, something started to nag at my skull. And there, I knew it was happening right away. I knew it was happening. You know, when an actor is walking around on the stage, I can tell you this as an actor, when you're walking around the stage, as long as your concentration is total, you can fool anybody. You can make them think you are Hamlet, as long as your concentration is great. But the minute in the middle of a speech, something distracts you, and you are not, forget it. Well, I'm sitting there, and I got the same look on my face, and my eyes are just as glazed as anybody else's, and I'm going quack quack once in a while like everyone else. But my concentration was gone, and I did not know it. That's a thing that an actor never knows either, really, that his concentration is gone. It's very hard to know. Well, what was happening was, for some nutty reason, through my mind is going the sound of a tune. Just like that, and I know one thing about it. It was the theme of a soap opera. Well, now that's significant right there. I don't know what a psychiatrist would say about that, or an analyst. I mean, I'm getting soap opera themes while I'm sitting in the middle of a gigantic soap opera episode on Madison Avenue. One thing you must know about these dreams, just like the Mad Tea Party in Alice in Wonderland. These people take these things deadly seriously because it is their work. Remember that, lady. It is their work. And so if the rabbit, or if the turtle, or if the snails, or if the caterpillar misses a cue, they're making all the sounds. If he misses a cue, that is a deadly thing. It would make no difference if he said it. It would all come out coleslaw. But if he misses the cue and no coleslaw comes out, he's really worried. Because everybody else knows, it's all part of a mosaic. So I'm sitting there, and little knowing it, of course, I'm missing cues. Well, this song is going through my mind. It's a soap opera tune. And to this minute, all night, it's been bugging me. I will now play it for you on my nose flout. And or at least the opening bars. Listen, do any of you know the name of this thing and what soap opera that it was the heraldic emblem for? Listen. Huh? You got that? That's enough. That's a terrible tune. You've heard enough of it. You know it? Not one of you knows it? You mean you never heard it before? Is it that I'm that rotten of a nose flute player or what? I'll try it again. Listen. Now, they played it faster than that, but I know you've got slow minds. Okay? I'll try it again. All right, got it? La ta 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 ta. La da 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 da. La da 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 da. It's a very sad tune. All I know is it was a very I sing it sadly. It's a sad tune. You're not supposed to sing a sad tune happily, baby. I mean, that's the only way to sing it. La da 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 da. La da 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 da. Oh, very sad. And I'm sitting there, and suddenly I'm stricken with this terrible, sad feeling about all those awful people in the soap opera, and I don't remember anything about them, their names or anything. I just know it was hell, their life. And then I began to feel sorry for myself. I'm sitting there, and I'm going, whack, 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 and everybody, whoop, 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 and I'm going, da, 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 ya, da, 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 la, da, 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 ya, da, da. And suddenly I see J.B. as old Dr. Scrivens, the evil menace in the small town of Happyville. La da 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 da. And this girl that kept coming in was Gladys Jenkins, solid, hard-hitting young Baptist girl who was, la da 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 da. And this guy sitting across from me was young Jimmy Cleanliver, who, as you know, had that awful thing happen to him years ago when his mother died, that long, lingering illness, you recall, when they finally wrote her out of the script. Well, I was sitting there, and I was just in the middle of the whole crummy thing, and I couldn't figure out what's the matter. One more, let's go, Eddie. 1, 2, 3. No. Oh, all right, let's go. Come on. Gotta sing it out. Gotta sing. I'm the Sheik of Arbay. Not bad, is it, friend? Your love belongs to me. At night when you're asleep, baby, into your tent, I'll creep. The stars that shine above will light our way to love. You'll rule this land with me. Oh, I'm the Sheik of Arbay. All right, all together, gang. Let's go. No, it's no use. You can't bring gaiety back into the world. Gone, lost forever. Thank God. George Rooney. I could sing another chorus of that. How about, you want me to blow the flute on the next chorus on that one? I feel like it. Come on, Ed. Come on now. Come on. You got a strong contract. I wouldn't. All right, come on. Bring it up there. Blow a pretty good flute. Pretty good nose flute there. Ever since I was 9, I've been not commercial. You know, I wish I'd learned to play the accordion. Or the ukulele or something. Well, you know, speaking of being non-commercial, I'm going to forget that. None of you know the name of the tune, so I'm going to forget it. Try to forget it. Very difficult, though. Very difficult. I'm you know, speaking of soap operas, and I think at this point, it is wise for us to point out to you that the next segment of tonight's opus is sent to you as a public service of WOR. Oh, yes, I want it logged as such. A true public service. I think it's more of a public service than asking you to join the Marines, because I don't think you're going to join the Marines anyway if I do, and that's called public service on the radio. You're going to come out and say, but join the Marines, yes. Any of you guys from 28 to 34 that got rocks in the head, join the Marines. You'll love it. Plump, 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 up, all together, let's go. Well, that's called public service here at WOR. We mean well, though. I say one thing for us. There's not a mean bone in our body. There's a lot of sneaky bones, but not a mean bone, actually. All we want is a lot of money. And we want a lot of love, and we want to be able to get away with a lot of stuff. That's all. And none of it hurts you, actually. None of you. You're getting it free. Crying out loud. What more do you want? That's the truth. You know, people will complain loudly about anything they get free. 35,000 letters will come in demanding that everybody on the staff be fired every 3 days from louts that are sitting out there getting it free. You know, they're sitting out there, they're cabbage heads. And not one of them, if he goes down and watches a Broadway musical and pays $40 a shot to see this turkey, would ever think and demand, I want Geraldine Page to get fired. Fire her, rotten, terrible. Ever. He just goes home thinking that he missed the point, all right? All right. I just love every loud lady. I don't mind loud ladies. They're everywhere today. So it's real life. She's reflecting. What else do you have in there? Did you find out the name of the tune, baby? Not one of them. You mean they never even heard of the soap opera? Ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta. Well, there it is again. I think I'm the only living American who has observed America. I'm really beginning to believe this. Seriously, I hate to say that. Now, I don't say that I've observed it. I just remember all the crud. Nobody else, and I cannot help it. And it's not that I'm 1,000 years old. I have a memory that will not enable me to throw away the junk. You know how some people have their house full of all kinds of crud, from the ceiling to the floors, stuff they'll never use. It's down in the basements and the garage. It's buried under the privet hedges everywhere. Well, that's the kind of memory I got. I remember the themes of folk. I'll tell you, who can stand there right now and look me right in the eye and give me the theme of Lorenzo Jones? Well, what good is it ever? You can. All right, what's the name of it? You can hum it, but you can't tell me the name of it. And furthermore, you cannot tell me what Lorenzo Jones's business was. What did he do? A barber? Oh, boy, you forget it, baby. Huh? Oh, you guys are all off a lumber yard. Everybody, Americans, do you know that during the war, seriously, do you know what they did out on the islands during the war? That when the Japs, you see, a lot of Japanese learned how to speak English better than most of the louts who came from Queens, you know. So it was very hard to tell that when you're hiding in a foxhole, you know, and then some guy comes up and says, "Hey Mac, you got a cigarette?" He could have been, you know, he's a corporal in the Japanese Marines. The next thing you know, you get a shiv in your neck. Well, so I'm telling you something serious. They had to invent a series of passwords that only an American would know. And so here's the kind of passwords they'd say. They'd say, "Hey, Mac," here's just what they'd say. "Hey, Mac, who sponsored Jack Armstrong?" Well, if there was a dead silence, you better start getting out your bayonet. And the proper Americans are, Wheaties. Okay, Mac, okay, come on in. Yeah, that's the kind of stuff they did. Did you know that during the war? All that. And here I'm doing the same thing to you, and you're all flunking. Do you realize what I would do if I had a grenade now? I'd lay it in that control room, boy. I am surrounded by spies. I'll bet all you guys were trained by Izvestia. I'll bet the whole crew. You haven't been here longer than 1953. Not one of you. You tell me what Lorenzo Jones did? Oh, boy. What was the name of Lorenzo's wife? Oh, no, not Mrs. Jones. I'm sorry. She was never once, as far as I know, referred to as Mrs. Jones on that. Believe me, you know what would happen? If I'm laying in a foxhole, I says, "What was the name of Lorenzo Jones's wife?" And some guy says, "Mrs. Jones." Uh-oh, pull the pin. Boom, that's it. Sacco. Oh, what a bunch of louts. We do not have Americans anymore. All right, wise guy. Is there one of you that can give me the theme of a real drippy soap opera, a real tearjerker named Marry Marlon? Everybody, I'm amazed at how everybody gets everything all balled up. The next thing they say, Marry Marlon, backstage wife. That is another one. You see, you're getting everything all screwed up, all balled up, all the way down the line. I will say it again now. Let's try it again. Marry Marlon, and it was one of the very few that used a classical piece of music as its theme. Classical, you know, serious music, classical, serious music. And believe it or not, the piece of music was written by Beethoven. Pretty good man there. Of course, he was in public domain, so that made him particularly interesting for a theme. You know, you never had to pay anything on that one. La da da la da 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 ta ti la ta 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 ta. Yeah. All right. Well, tonight I think what we'll have to do here, is talk about how education comes about. And since it's quite evident that most of you, I assume that most of us listening tonight are Americans, right? Put up your hands, all of you that are listening tonight that are Americans, that were grown up and went to schools where they had drum majors, you know, and they had football players, you know, the whole jazz, you know what I mean, the bands, everybody, we're all there, you got it? And Ovaltine you drank, and you had popsicles, you know, the whole thing, the whole schlemoo, it's all American. Well, okay. Now, have you been reading recently in the papers about this American lady track team that has been falling all over the world on their respective you-know-whats? Have you been reading about that? Oh, boy, have they been laying eggs. Everywhere they go, you know, I've been having a terrible time. And have you ever noticed that oh, yes, have you been reading about how the Russian track stars, you know, these guys that jump 7 feet, 5.5 inches, you know, they train 24 hours a day, 100 years on end, and they're made of solid steel and gristle and bone. Well, it's that kind of nuttiness that is against the American grain. Americans always want to do it the easy way and cheat somewhere along the line, and that's what apparently is happening to these chicks. You know, as I say, we're good Americans, and that's the way we do it. We're instant people. We want to become instant best-selling authors. For example, we want to become an instant movie star. People want to have instant fame. That's what we want to do here. We want to be instantly 17 feet tall, or whatever it is. How many books do you see on the stand that says, you can lose 30 pounds in just 10 days? Oh, boy. And in just 15 days, you can be dynamic, hard-hitting, and on the way to the chairmanship of your company. That kind of thing. 15 days, 7 minutes a day. That's a typical American idea. Only in America would they have 7-minute-a-day piano courses. For just 7 minutes a day, for only 3 days a week, you can learn to play a piano beautifully with our new 5-color slide rule device. Just place it over your keyboard, and in just 5 minutes you'll be going, yes, you'll be the hit of the party. Well, that's only in America. They would never conceive of that in, say, a place like Brussels. They think of learning how to play the piano. They immediately think of guys like William Capel. They don't think of sitting down and playing Yes, Sir, That's My Baby with one hand. Well, that's a very different concept. Well, you see, now, what I'm leading into is that I'm a good American kid. Now, of course, Americans all cheat in one way or another. Oh, yes, we do. We all cheat in one way or another. And all good Americans have agreed between one another not to notice each other's cheating. That's the game, If you don't notice mine, I won't notice yours, and we'll get along fine. It'll work out beautifully. And nobody's going to be the wiser. It's going to be working out fine. But the minute one guy notices another guy's cheating, then a whole chain begins. A whole chain reaction sets up, as you know, Al, in the newsroom. Counter charges come back and forth, and they fly until finally there's a fantastic investigation, and everybody winds up in jail. Actually, what we do in America is we stop investigating at a certain point. If you notice, a lot of investigations sort of peter out. They catch 2 or 3 little guys, 1 or 2 guys get thrown into the jug, and there's a few little arguments of testimony, and then all of a sudden it disappears. No more. Well, no more. Well, that's the American way, and in fact, it's the world's way, really, if it were to be brought out. But we're about the only country in the world that maintains a high level of verbal smokescreen. We're about the only country in the world that keeps hollering things like slogans, like justice, peace, equality, democracy. We keep yelling those things. They don't say that stuff in France. They don't, They don't bother to say that stuff in places like Belgium or Holland or anything. Life is life. That's the way you live it, see. But over here, we believe that slogans really mean what they say, And we're always mad when we find out they don't. Well, I'm a kid, you see. And I'm just beginning to learn about a few things, and one of the things that I was learning about at that time was the ability that I have, me, just being another American, to figure that I am above any normal disaster. Most of us, when we read about guys getting killed in automobile wrecks, we don't think about ourselves. It's never us that gets killed. Oh, it's always some other clown, and he somehow loused up, oh, boy, he flub up, he got cancer there. Other than that, well, he always was an unsuccessful type, And that is why Americans have this dream world around us. We never think of disaster in terms of ourselves, nor reality, really, in terms of ourselves. It's something that happens on the Ron Cochran show to other people somewhere else. And it's a good show, and the commercial comes on, and then you watch the late movie, and you cork off. Yeah, that's right. That's the end of it. Well, I'm a kid, see, and I'm living in a household that believe firmly in that kind of thing. That's the American thing. And I'm going to school. I'm a sophomore in high school, and we had, among other things, in this high school, it was a gigantic high school. There was about 3,000 guys. We had a track team. And guess who was number 3 man on a 4-man cross-country team? Yep, that's right. That's right. Old friendly Fred here. And guess who was number 4 man on this 4-man cross-country team? My old buddy Flick. Well, we made the team. And actually, I'll tell you this secretly, for those of you who have never run cross-country running is, in a way, the most difficult kind of running, and in a way, also the easiest kind, because you don't have to be really fast or anything. You just got to be dumb. You do. You just have to run long and hard. It's like a guy who can just sit there and scratch himself longer than anybody else without getting tired of it. That's the kind of thing. You just go clunk, 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 clunk. clunk, 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 clunk. You run. You don't have to run fast. You don't have to run. You gotta be very, very dogged. That's the expression, I guess, is doggedness. It's not even a talent. The best cross-country runners have no talent whatsoever. They just have more doggedness than anybody else. I learned that. Now I'm saying that, you see, justifying all the guys that beat me. Well, one afternoon we're about to have our first major meet. We have been practicing, up this time we run cross-country. And we had about a 15-mile course. Oh, yeah, we'd run like the track meet would start. And very few events in sport are as lonely as a cross-country event. Because nobody cheers cross-country runners or anything. Not a bit of cheering at all, see. That everybody else is down there in the arena. They're running the 100, the 220, and the 220 hurdles and all that, and the quarter mile, and everybody's yelling, and the pole vaulters. They're the real showboats, and the high jumpers are the real showboats of the track world, and everybody is watching them. Well, if you guys who go to track will observe, you will notice just before everything starts to happen, a large group of guys seem to leave the stadium by the other end. Well, those are the cross-country runners. They are leaving. And after you have gotten in your car and have gone home and you're heading towards Trenton or Hegewisch or wherever it is you go, a large group of guys are now straggling out in the darkness. They are arriving back at the stadium. And nobody is there to cheer nothing. You see, that's the cross-country runners. They have run through the garbage heaps. They've run out through the swamps and every place else. And now, out of the 29 guys that started, 17 are finishing. Well, now I'm about to tell you about the 8 who didn't. We have got our first big track meet. This is old Shep now. He's learning about life. And the day before the track meet, our coach, who is a tough son of a gun, and by the way, who's a top college coach now, and he's grizzled. He's got one of these beards, This guy has played tackle on a Big Ten football team, and he was an All-American. He was a shot putter. He was everything, He was a 9-letter man, a real tough son of a gun and a professional athlete. So he says, all right, one thing about you guys, especially you guys that are on the cross-country team, I don't want you to eat nothing. I don't want you to eat nothing before that meet. I don't want you to touch anything. In the morning, I want you to have 1 glass of milk, a glass of water, and when you get down here, we're going to give you a couple of vitamin tablets, some dextrose tablets, and that's it. You can eat after the meet, right? Well, being a good American, I do not believe that any disaster ever strikes me. So I'm sitting there, yep. And of course, at that moment, I'm feeling very, very righteous. I have just had my lunch consisting of 4 peanut butter sandwiches and 2 bottles of Pepsi-Cola and a Twinkie bar. You see, so I'm feeling as though this is no problem at all, see? Well, the next day I get up and I have my glass of milk. My mother says, come on, eat. She come on. No, we're running today. Running today against George Rogers Clark. And, of course, in the morning, I never was much of an eater in the morning. Lunchtime comes, nothing, see? And I have a glass of water. The meet starts at 3. We are going to be excused at 2. So at 2 o'clock, Flick and I are walking down the hall. We walk out of the school. We wind up outside on our way to the track stadium. Across the street is Igloos. Well, 1 cheeseburger, 2 strawberry malts later, Flick and Shep line up. We're feeling great. 27 other guys are down there crouched with us. We're looking off into the distance. Boom! The gun goes. We start running. I'm feeling fantastic. I'm running along, I'm feeling great. I'm way out there in front, and the guys are strung out behind me. I'm running along. My number is flopping back of me. I'm a block away from the stadium now. I'm cutting through the woods and over through the park. Flick is running just a little bit ahead of me and to my right. We are pacing ourselves beautifully. Fine long-distance runners. Guys are running behind me. 1 mile goes by. All of a sudden, I see Flick. He makes a sharp cut to the right, and I hear, Flick is flat out. I turn. I run past. What's the matter, Flick? All of a sudden, there is a bubbling sound. It's coming up. I can hear guys from George Rogers Clark behind me, guys from Tech ahead of me, and without any warning, out of my ears. Oh, down I go. Oh, I can't tell you, I'm out. I'm out like a light. Out like a light. It seemed like for 2 hours, all I saw was feet going past me. Clunk, clunk, clunk. Oh.